The Go Downs is back with free agency predictions. It's that time of the year, and this video will be focusing on the big-time players that were recently cut, but we'll get to the scheduled free agents. We'll have several of these videos leading up to free agency. Great videos once it all starts. Hope you can join us for all that. Let's break it down. Starting with maybe the best player that was cut, Davante Adams. He still got it at the end of the year with the Jets. Once he got going, he was showcasing that he really still has it at his age, and that kind of helped him make some more money maybe this offseason. You keep hearing West Coast. He wants to stay on the West Coast. Just keep hearing that over and over again. I'm going to predict the Rams. I was actually planning on going with the Niners even before he was cut. I'm like, he's going to go to the Niners just because they traded Debo. They need another receiver. They had interest in Adams in the past. They're being linked to him now, the whole West Coast thing. I'm like, I got to go Niners. But man, you hear John Lynch talking about they're going to be careful with their money. When they do spend, they want to add young players. Could he be kind of bluffing a little bit? Maybe, but I don't like that talk if I were to predict Davante Adams to go to the Niners. So I'm going to go with the Rams. A lot of things make sense there. Again, the West Coast thing. They need a receiver. They're moving on from Cooper Kupp. I thought that was maybe just a small shot. They can bring him back on a rework deal. They said yesterday that's probably not going to happen. He's either traded or cut. Perfect fit with Matthew Stafford. Kind of 1, 2, or 3 cracks at it. You know, 2 veteran guys going for another Super Bowl here. I think he pairs well with Nakua, Tutu Atwell, who they just brought back, a guy that can play inside and out. Adams, same with Nakua. I think it's a good fit. Chargers also West Coast. They're supposed to be interested, but they are focused, I'm guessing, on DK right now. If they miss on DK, watch for the Chargers. Keep hearing the return of the Packers. Keep hearing it. I'm more thinking the other teams just because, again, I keep saying West Coast, but just because we keep hearing that. But maybe the Packers and then some other sneaky teams, a couple West Coast teams. You hear if Rodgers goes to the Giants, maybe Adams can go. I'm not counting on it, but maybe. Predicting the Rams right now. Joey Bosa was just cut yesterday. I'm predicting him to go to the 49ers. I mentioned it weeks ago before he was even cut that I think the Niners will be pretty active, trying to get him if he were to be cut, which we were expecting. So pair the Bosa brothers together, but it's not just that. It's not just because the brother is there. Gus Bradley is also there, who was part of the Chargers team. He's the defensive coordinator. Bosa's first few years there, so he knows what he's all about. Niners have some spending money this year. They're going to be careful with it. They need another defensive end. It makes all the sense in the world. The Commanders would make some sense. Bosa's been in 3-4 schemes, but he is just like his brother. He's a 4-3 defensive end, so get him in the right scheme, like the Niners, the Commanders, really good fit. I think the Commanders are going to go for it just a little bit ago. Hendrickson on the trading block. Bengals going to look to trade him. And the Commanders will go for him. I could definitely see the Packers. They switched to a 4-3 last year. The Lions, it just seems like Joey Bosa is their type of guy. The Detroit Lions, like that brand of football. He does have to stay healthy. I can see the Bills, too. I almost wanted to put the Bills in there, a team to watch. You can watch for them as well. They're a little tight on cap space. Joey Bosa. I didn't worry about too much about highlighting a bunch of teams and the teams to watch because I really think he's going to go to the 49ers, but it's not a guarantee. With all these predictions and these upcoming prediction videos that I do, my goal really isn't try to use every single team. It's just make predictions, and they're not all going to be right. We've done good in the past. I think we'll do good, but I'm not. No one on the planet's going to be 100% right, but I do like many of you out there, like Joey Bosa, to the San Francisco 49ers. Tyler Lockett recently released by the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, he's up there in age, but he can still play. Production going down a little bit because he's aging, but mainly because they have 2-star receivers in DK and JSM. I mean, not DK for long, but taking over. So as long as he plays a little bit more, he can still get open. He can catch the ball. He's not going to do much for you after the catch. That's perfectly fine. I like the Raiders as my prediction. Pete Carroll there. They're looking for multiple receivers, so they're not just going to go all young guys. Their main approach is get young but better at the same time, but they're going to have to add some veterans here and there at that position, so I do like Lockett for them. And I like the Cowboys. Brian Schottenheimer is very familiar with Tyler Lockett. Was in Seattle for a little bit as the offensive coordinator, so the connection there. They need another receiver with CeeDee Lamb. I mainly like those two teams. I mentioned them on Twitter right away when Lockett was released. I'd say the Panthers too. Dave Canales connection. He was with Seattle for a little bit. They could use another receiver. They already got an old dude, Adam Thielen, who could still ball out. I think maybe they'll look for the younger, better guys first in free agency or the trade market. If they miss on those guys or they still feel like they need someone else and Lockett is still available, then maybe turn their attention there. A couple other teams that could use a veteran receiver. Chargers could be in on DK. The Packers could be on DK. Could they turn their attention to Lockett if they miss on some guys? Could see the Chiefs as well. You could list off several other teams that need receivers. I'm trying to narrow it down. These are who I feel comfortable with. Been predicting the Raiders for some time, even before Lockett was actually released. Dre'Mont Jones, another big name released by the Seahawks. They were playing him out of position. They moved him to the edge, and that's because they added Leonard Williams, who's a much better player, and they kind of play the same role. Dre'Mont Jones, last season in Denver, he was a stud. He earned a big contract and just hasn't worked out since then. I love him in that 3-4 defensive end role. There are two fits. Again, he could go to somebody I didn't list here. Any of these guys can go to someone I didn't list. It's definitely possible. That'd be pretty entertaining if it was a surprise to me. But there are two fits that really stand out. Both these teams also have a coaching connection on their roster, or on their staff, But I like the Minnesota Vikings. They're looking for a 3-4 a perfect fit in Brian Flores' defense. They need somebody on the defensive line other than just Harrison Phillips. They do like Jalen Redmond as well, but he would fit with those two guys. They have a former position coach on the staff as well. And the Panthers have Ejiro Evero as the defense coordinator. He was the defense coordinator for the Broncos when Dre'Mont Jones was tearing it up. So it actually makes a little more sense, even in my opinion, for the Panthers. But you're going to see possibly in the upcoming free agency prediction videos, I really think the Panthers are going to be after the big time. They're going to be, I'm not saying that's my prediction, but they're going to be in on Milton Williams. They're going to be in on maybe Wharton, on Ruzarike, even though Jones could be a little better than those guys right now, about upside with those guys. The Panthers are going to be going in on the top free agent options. So I think I'm going to go with the Vikings for that reason. I love the connection with both, but if the Panthers miss out on, we'll say, Milton Williams, they could turn their attention to Dre'Mont Jones, and they could be that top landing spot. Other teams that I think he can fit, again, he could go to a 4-3 team and play D-tackle, 3 technique, whatever. I wouldn't love it, so I kind of mainly use the 3-4 teams. The Bengals I think are kind of going to shift towards that with Al Golden in there now. They were more 4-3 base, but they gave different looks as it was. They would bring Osai in. He would stand up off the edge, not right on the line of scrimmage. So off topic a little bit, but those are the best fits in my opinion. I really, again, another one, long before he was cut, I was thinking Vikings and Panthers for Dre'Mont Jones. Let's see if it actually happens. Darius Slay, maybe a little bit of a surprise he was released by the Eagles just because the lack of savings, but he is a longtime vet. They know how to build a team. They know how to find replacements. They're going to be fine just fine without him, but he's a very solid, smart veteran corner that can play man and zone coverage. Typically when these guys are at this age, you want them to play a little bit more zone. You don't want them chasing after these freak athletes, but he was always pretty solid in man. But the Eagles played a ton of zone this year. It worked out for Slay and the Philadelphia Eagles, but I do like the versatility. I'm going to go with the Steelers. Steelers would be that team to not overspend at the corner position, even though they do need one pretty badly, maybe multiple, to pair with Joey Porter Jr. So again, they could add someone in the slot as well, unless they like what they have going forward. But Darius Slay, outside corner, I think they'll be interested in him, kind of that second wave of free agency. I guess it could happen, right away too. Back to the Lions would be something. Totally could see that. They're going to try to get Carlton Davis back first. If they can't get him back, they might even try, we'll say, a Paulson Adebo, but then maybe Darius Slay. I totally could see him going back to the Lions. They do run a lot of man coverage, though. Do you want a long time vet, the guy that's aging a little bit to be in man coverage that much? Or do they switch it up? Aaron Glenn's gone. Do they not run as much as that? We'll see. I like the Steelers. Just kind of a gut feeling there. But other teams that could make some sense, I listed down below: Bengals, Bucks. Bucks if they move on from Dean. Bills, I could see adding a veteran guy that's not going to cost that much. Ravens, or the Bills and the Ravens, the same boat. They won't be able to be big spenders in free agency, so they're always in the market for guys like this. The Rams as well. Could be in the market for a veteran guy, but they have some space actually to spend. So a little bit different in the Bills and the Ravens in that regard, but sometimes they have that veteran because they're the right price and they think they can fit their defense. Javon Hargrave, defensive tackle, recently cut by the 49ers. A massive signing for them a couple years ago. It was actually a shocker that it happened, I remember. Just didn't work out. I know injuries played a part. Just didn't work out. It was disappointing. He was elite when he played for the Eagles last. They made that Super Bowl run. I could definitely see him going back. I mean, the Eagles are probably going to lose Milton Williams, and I think Hargrave would go back to that fit. and try to win a Super Bowl and go for a little cheaper, and the Eagles would love that. Again, not necessarily the same exact style of defensive lineman as Milton Williams, but they would use them. They like having the rotation of beast players, and definitely could see it. He once played for the Steelers. I could see that as well. They could definitely use another interior defensive lineman. See if they cut a guy like Ogunjobi still. Cardinals, Jonathan Gannon there. The Texans, I definitely could see him fitting on D'Amico Ryan's defensive front, and they could use another interior player. I listed the Niners. I actually heard that it's possible, if he ends up being cheaper, that he can wind up back there. Hard for me to. I think he would turn that down even for less money to go to the Eagles. That's just me. Bengals looking for D tackles. It sounds like they're going to trade Hendrickson, so they'll have a little bit more spending money here. Now, I don't think Hargrave's going to be that expensive. Washington, Buffalo, Chicago, these teams make some. You can list a bunch of other teams too, but they make sense as well. Watching for Philly, that'd be awesome if he ended up back there and try to win a Super Bowl this time. Sheldon Rankins recently cut by the Cincinnati Bengals is just a 1-year thing, a big addition for them. It was supposed to be big. It didn't work out. They tried to play him at nose tackle position a lot. Don't agree with that. He's solid rushing the passer from the interior. He does have some durability concerns. He was really solid on the Texans before that. The Texans definitely need interior defensive linemen. I don't see how they actually tried to get him back too last year. The Bengals paid just, I think, a $1 million more, if I remember correctly. I think he goes back cheaper to the Texans. Makes a lot of sense. The Niners looking for interior players. That would be a solid scheme fit, kind of looking for scheme fits here. The Bears would make some sense. Dennis Allen is very familiar with Sheldon Rankins, spent some time in New Orleans, so I definitely could see those teams. So some connections here. Texans, Bears, love the scheme fit for the 49ers. Some other teams, Jets, Bills, and Browns. Some of those teams have some connections as well. Those teams stand out, but I'm counting on, I really think the Texans. But again, watch those other teams as well for Sheldon Rankins. This is one of those ones that actually isn't official yet, but the Raiders told Gardner Minshew that they are going to cut him when the new league year starts, so early next week. Part of me is like, it's tough to figure out a landing spot just because we haven't heard anything. But then again, like, how did the Colts not get Gardner Minshew back? He played very well for the Colts. Almost made the playoffs. They were one running back grab away from making the playoffs that year. And that's pretty crazy given how talented that Texans team was, and how good the Jags were supposed to be that year a couple years ago. So, and they're looking for competition for Anthony Richardson. That makes a lot of sense. I don't know. I've heard they're interested in a guy like Daniel Jones. So do they choose Jones over Minshew? It's possible. Jets, they need a quarterback, but you just don't hear the Jets linked to anyone right now. So I put the Jets in there. The Saints, I think he would fit Kellen Moore's offense pretty well. Titans, kind of linked to Sam Darnold, but not fully. And they might draft the quarterback. They're going to need someone else in there. So that's why I put the Titans up there. The Browns, I think they'll be after a couple other guys first. The Steelers, probably not, but maybe. The Giants, again, probably not, maybe. Back to Jacksonville, they badly. It's important for them to get a quality backup behind Trevor Lawrence with the injuries he's had recently. It's just the way it is. So Jags, and more I'm thinking about that, the more I like that as well. But how did the Colts not get this guy back? But we'll start to hear more, I guess, when he's officially released. But I thought I would throw him in this video. Aaron Rodgers, I think a lot of us are predicting the Giants. That's what the rumors say right now. But they could be in on Sam Darnold, guys like that. They have to pay a lot more. But it feels like there's mutual interest with Rodgers and the Giants. So we'll go ahead and predict that right now. Instead of the Raiders, just because Max Crosby wants Aaron Rodgers on the Raiders, but I think the Raiders want Sam Darnold. But if they miss on him, is it Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers? We'll see. And then the Titans as well. That was mentioned in the past that he could end up there, but does he want to go to that situation? I don't know if he's open to going to the Giants, then maybe. And I'm not counting on the Vikings or Steelers, but they've been mentioned in the past. I'm just not counting on those things. So right now it sounds like the New York Football Giants for Aaron Rodgers. That's going to be weird. We'll see if it happens. Marcus Williams of the Ravens. I don't think this one's became official yet, but it will be. The safety's been a letdown recently, mainly with this year. He got benched, but has been a very solid coverage-free safety in the past. I think we'll have some interest from teams. The Colts, definitely looking for a free safety. They're not ones to spend like big money going for the top dollar guy. Maybe that could finally change. I think Williams would make some sense in Lou Anarumo's defense as a free safety. Also like the Titans, Denard Wilson is their defense coordinator. He was with the Ravens, not this past year, the year before, so familiar with Marcus Williams. So I had a tough time Colts versus Titans for the most part, but I've heard the Titans are now in. They're a new team that is in on the very top free agents when it comes to free safety. Javon Holland, if they miss on him, do they go for like a Cam Bynum? But they're one to watch for Holland. The Jets, definitely could see Aaron Glenn being interested in Marcus Williams, and then maybe Marcus Williams can find his way back to New Orleans on the cheap. Dolphins, Bears if they cut Kevin Byard. Kevin Byard played all right for them. So if they cut Byard, Dennis Allen, familiar with Marcus Williams. Seattle, don't necessarily need a safety, but Mike McDonald, very familiar with Marcus Williams. The Bills could use multiple safeties, really. To be determined if they view him as a fit. But yeah, I think the Colts and I mentioned the other teams really stand out here for Marcus Williams. Obviously, more guys could be cut. They could be cut anytime now while I'm uploading this video maybe, but here are some big names to watch for. I'm not saying these guys will be cut, but they're ones to watch for here with some landing spots. Braden Smith, the Colts right tackle, sounds like they might cut him. He's been a really good right tackle when healthy. I could list more than 5 teams here. There's a lot of teams that need right tackles. There's not a lot of good ones in free agency. There's really no right tackles. It's mainly left guys. But Patriots definitely an interest. How much longer is he going to play football? That's kind of the question there. It's kind of sounding like, maybe he's close to being done, but he's open to playing this year. Commanders would make sense. The Niners, I mean, those teams that, give them a 1-year deal. Commanders or Niners, it kind of makes a lot of sense for them as they're trying to contend. Jonathan Allen, the Commanders try to trade him. It sounds like they could cut him. I mentioned the Niners in the past, and then Jonathan Allen was brought up in the two teams' discussions when talking about Deebo Samuel trade. That obviously didn't happen, but I still like the Niners. Texans, Vikings, Bengals, Chargers. You can list, the Bears. You can list so many defensive tackle needy teams. Jair Alexander, I like some specific fits with him if he's cut. The Packers hope to trade him if he's too good to cut, but it's possible. The Jags looking for a corner. Campanile was with the Packers last year as defensive coordinator. Falcons got Jerry Gray, who's familiar with Jair Alexander. They need another corner. The Bills, they traded for his teammate Rasul Douglas. Not this past trade deadline, the one before. They'll view Alexander as a fit. The Vikings, Mike Pettin on the staff. He was with the Packers for a bit. Familiar with Alexander. They need a corner. And their only chance getting him if they cut, not trade. And in Washington, I could definitely see the Commanders being interested, but they might have their sights set on a guy like Charvarius Ward, so they would need Alexander to be cut before free agency opens. But they would definitely be interested if he was. Grady Jarrett would be a big name from the Falcons. Is a long-time, really good defensive tackle. Love Washington for Grady Jarrett. Love it. Dan Quinn connection. Makes a lot of sense. They're going to move on from Allen and maybe add Jarrett if he's available. So that's the main team to watch. I did list some other teams that he could be interested in going to, and they could be interested in bringing him in. Cooper Kupp's either traded or cut. I think he could be cut. The Jags are now the team to watch. I mentioned in the past, watch for them if they move on from Christian Kirk. They trade Christian Kirk today, actually. Slot receiver gone. They need a new slot receiver. Liam Cohen, very familiar with Cooper Kupp. Was with the Rams for a long time, even coached quarterbacks, receivers, offense, all that. So that makes a lot of sense. Texans, I meant to remove from there. Christian Kirk was traded there right before going to record this video. So disregard the Texans. They filled that slot receiver role. The Falcons, very familiar faces there. Zach Robinson, Raheem Morris. They're looking for a third receiver. Heard the Cowboys, if released, will be interested in Cooper Kupp. And then the Patriots are desperate for a receiver. I really like the Jags. Really like the Jags and the Falcons the most there. Jamel Dean's another guy to watch. It's a little 50-50, maybe less than 50 that he'll be cut because he's a good corner but does have durability concerns. I like the Raiders if they don't add a big corner in free agency. The Jags make some sense as well if they, both those teams, looking to add a DJ Reed or a Carlton Davis. If they don't do that, watch for Dean. Samson Abukum, yeah, it's maybe less than 50% chance he gets cut, but he's been a name that's been thrown out there. He's a very unique type pass rusher that can stand up, can drop in coverage. The Niners and Falcons would be fantastic fits. I'd say even if the Niners get Joey Bosa, Abukum, bringing him back would make some sense there. Even with that, the Falcons would be interested as well. Really good fits with those defenses and how they like to run things with their schemes. So some guys to watch there. Again, some of these guys could be cut right away as I'm uploading this video, but this is something I wanted to jump on because a lot of these guys could sign at any time right now, where the next few free agency predictions videos, that includes the scheduled free agents. They cannot start to agree to contracts until next Monday, being official to next Wednesday. But we're going to jump on those prediction videos. We'll have great videos all throughout free agency right away on Monday. I'm freaking pumped. So if you join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on. More of these to come. That's going to do it. Goodbye.